Hello, this is Pat Cahill from Pat Cahill Metalworks, and today we're going to make a cuff bracelet. I call this cuff the wave cuff, and what it is I'm going to sweat solder a piece of sterling silver on top of this sizing stock, which is quite substantial. It's 2 millimeters thick by 10 millimeters wide. It makes a very nice weighty cuff that feels really good on the wrist. So I drew out this waveform so that it was bisecting right in the middle of the cuff blank, and then I'm going to take this and glue it to this piece. Now, this piece is going to be quite a bit thinner. If I was to use the same thickness, it would be a little bit too much for the cuff, and it would be quite hard to really form it into a nice shape. So what do? I just glue that down with some glue stick. Try to align the edges so that I have a nice clean edge. Just like that. Let it dry a bit, and then I'll saw it out. So I'm going to saw that out off camera, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. Okay, so I've sawed that out, and I've cleaned up the edges by just sanding carefully, and see how that fits on here. That fits quite nicely. So the next thing I'm going to do is sweat solder this onto the piece of sizing stock I have here. So with sweat solder, what you want to do first is lay a lot of your easy solder onto the side you're going to put it down on, which I believe is this side. And then you solder the two pieces, and I'll show you that process. So what I'm going to do is first get ready and put down all the solder chips, and there's quite a few of them. So let me do that, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so we're ready to flow the solder. I fluxed the surface and then put the solder chips on. It looks like quite a lot, but in this technique of sweat soldering, it's better to have more than less. If you have some areas that aren't fully coated, you can get, when you hammer the cuff, you can get little indentations there where there's little gaps or holes where the solder should be. So although this is a bit overkill, one might say, I think it's better safe than sorry. So it bubbles up, bowls up, and then it'll flow down. And that's all we're just doing with it. And you can even take your pick, which I don't have here. Just a second. And spread it around a little bit more even. Alright, so I'll just do this. The next step will be to sand this so it's nice and flat. Okay, so I've fluxed this whole surface here, and I've also sanded the solder that I put down so that it gives a nice flat surface so that it will adhere nicely. And I'll flux this side too. And carefully place it where I want it. Put it up right to the edge. Make sure it's there nice. It looks good, so we're ready to blow the solder. Now you can add fire scoff to prevent the top layer from, or hopefully help it not bring out the fire scale. You're going to get a little bit probably. Anytime you're doing these big sweat solders like this, and this is a big one, you know, over 6-inch long, 2mm with cuff, not counting. Almost another 1/2 millimeter from the piece that we're sweat soldering on. So just take your time, as I said before. Heat it up, the whole thing. That looks about, it's going now. Okay, that's done. I'm going to put that in the pickle and I'll get right back to you. Okay, so we soldered the wave level onto the back plate or bottom plate and cleaning it up a little bit. I started it a little, and really only thing you can really clean is the top portion, or really polish, is this the top edge. You can't get into the bottom edge, but we don't need to worry about that because we're going to give it a textured look, and polishing it or sanding it at this point just wouldn't do anything for us. So I'm going to fix this up, and I think it's pretty much done now. The next step will be to polish it on the buffer. But before we do that, I want to put a nice curve on either ends. So let's move that over to our bench pin. And file a nice curve. This is the file I really wanted. I like to have it so that if you can see that, so that this piece just disappears, so it doesn't look, the solder looks perfect, and it looks like almost one piece of silver with just different levels. So that's that side. That's that side. And we can clean it up with sandpaper. Starting with the coarser grit and then going on to the finer grit. So that's that. So I'm going to, like I say, polish it up a little bit on the buffer, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so we got it cleaned up, and we're ready for the next step. So I'm going to put a texture on the lower level, and what I'm going to use is these diamond burrs. So I have one attached to my flex shaft, and we'll just go carefully. Actually, it might be better if I use my bench pen. So let me move the camera over. And the only thing to worry about here is just make sure you don't go on the other side of the cuff bracelet, but it has a big ridge here, so you should be able to avoid that. So I'm getting in, I hope I'm trying to show you a little bit. And this just gives it a nice diamond burr finish. You can see that compared to where I haven't done yet. So I'm going to finish this up, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so we're ready to bend it into the shape of a cuff bracelet. There we have it. The one side has been diamond burred finished. The other side is nice and shiny, so it gives a really nice contrast. So again, start at the edges. Form your C shape. That's a little off, but it doesn't need to be a perfect C. But there you go. And now, use your hands. You should be able to use your hands. Just bring that over. Okay, and basically it's done. Make sure everything is nice and clean. And I'll bring it back over, show you the finished product. Okay, so there we have it. Nice wave cuff bracelet. Nice and sturdy. It's got that 2mm thick sizing stock that I started out with. And on top of that, it has another layer of 22 gauge, at least on one half side. And I like the contrast, and this is just a sort of a classics minimalist cuff bracelet. I like it. Okay, so thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you again sometime soon. Thank you.